Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And everybody talking about the State of the Union. Many of you were listening right alongside me last night as we were listening to what is a historic and record-setting State of the Union address. 1 hour, 48 minutes, and it was action-packed. And there were a lot of highlights, but let's be honest, when you saw the way the Democrats reacted, there were a lot of lowlights. I could not believe that not every single Democrat was standing when the U.S. hockey team came in. Also, Irina Zaruska's mom, she was the young girl who was stabbed to death by the repeat offender in Charlotte. They didn't stand up and applaud for the mother. They didn't applaud for Medal of Honor recipients, including that guy who was shot 4 times during the Maduro raid in Venezuela. And also, on basic things like, crime is down. That's a great thing. It's not a trick question when someone says, crime is down in this country. And yet, for some reason, the Democrats have such horrible Trump derangement syndrome that they could not even stand up on that. They couldn't stand up about a reduction of prescription prices. That's a good thing. How about homeowners, individual homeowners being able to acquire the American dream? That's a good thing. But no, they were combative. You could see Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib just screaming and shouting left and right at the president. Al Green getting kicked out after 3 minutes like old time's sake. And then I think one of the most reprehensible moments, and the Democrats, I think this really backfired on them. It has to have backfired on them. There is no way that a sane American watching what we all watched last night and listening to what we all listened to last night, seeing this opportunity to stand up and celebrate American greatness and American patriotism, and as President Trump called it, a major transformation, the golden age of America, all these heroes being honored and these great things to celebrate. And yet they could not even stand up. And in fact, they kept looking at each other like when it was a moment, should we stand up or are we okay? I would like to clap for this. Oh, no, I can't clap for this because we have Trump derangement syndrome. It was so transparent. It was so disgusting. And today, to listen to the Democrats go on and on and on, there were some who were saying it was too patriotic. I'm sorry. I like patriotism. I like America. I think the clip that really epitomizes it all is this one, when President Trump kind of put democracy on a test, put the Democratic Party on a test, and said, who are you going to put first and foremost in this great country of ours? Are you going to put Americans or are you going to put illegal aliens? And guess what? They all failed because none of them stood up. It was a shocking moment. And it just epitomizes the worst of the worst, which we saw last night. Take a listen. Here is President Trump. This is the moment that everybody's talking about from the State of the Union address.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself.
And they should be ashamed of themselves. I mean, it's not a trick question. Who do you put before American citizens? Nobody. You're in this country. You're in the USA. You put Americans first. And yet, for some reason, they treated it like it was a trick question and how dare you. And then you could even hear the screaming there. Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib going crazy after all of this. I want to play, this is cut number 26. And this is Congresswoman Janelle Bynum. She is a Democrat of Oregon. And she was on C-SPAN, and she was asked about that moment. And listen to how she spun this. She went back to the old, this is racist playbook.
What did you think about that moment when the president was asking Democrats to stand up for American citizens during that part of the speech when he was talking about immigration and immigration enforcement efforts?
I think you can agree with the what, like standing up for American citizens, but I disagree with the how. And so it's always about how do we bring our country together, but not stand on the backs of others. There's thinly veiled racist language, anti-immigrant language in what he was asking, and that was uncomfortable.
There was racist and uncomfortable language with what he was saying. Would you put Americans before illegal aliens? I'm sorry, it's not a tough question. And here is Congressman Gil Cisneros, Democrat of California, with his take on the moment that clearly embarrassed every Democrat in the room.
Everybody in that room yesterday, all the members of Congress took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And the president's speech was just very performative. And one of the things, most performative things that he tried to do was to kind of like put a thing on Democrats when he said, like, are you going to, everybody, if you think you should be supporting American citizens over illegal immigrants, stand up. That's wrong, right? And everybody on that side who stood up knows it's wrong.
Performative and wrong. Well, first of all, what a despicable thing. He's still trying to figure out how that could be an inappropriate question. I'm sorry, there's nothing inappropriate about it. And guess what? Based on the behavior of a number of these Democrats, they just showed America exactly who they are. Their policies have shown it. And now their lack of standing also shows it as well. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Sandra in New Jersey, line 5. Sandra, your thoughts tonight.
Oh, Rita, good evening. That speech last night, I ended up crying at the end with Royce getting that beautiful award. But, if you notice, the speech built up momentum. It kept getting better and better and better and better. This man never fails to he never lets us down. I would say this is probably the best speech I ever heard him talk about. And so many points have already, everyone brought up all these great points. So I remember when he said, no more DEI in America. Everyone in my administration came from the private sector. I like that very much. And I like that he said, if we have to buy automobiles, if you buy them in the United States, you will get a fabulous loan, a nice little discount. I liked how he spoke to the judges about how he was disappointed in how they handled the tariff, but he has alternative plans, and the situation will be better and stronger as a result. Like, he wasn't afraid of anybody. Then I love how he said about the voter IDs. You don't want people to have it because you want to cheat. He wasn't afraid to say the truth. And that's what I love about this man. And then he spoke about the trans people, no more of taking your kids away from your parents. He spoke about that and that lovely child with the mom was there. The whole thing was like a home run, so beautiful. And I'm just still thinking about the whole thing. And then Marco Rubio, what a humble man he is. I noticed. I wrote that down, how humble he is, and Delilah and everybody, and then Andrew, just everybody, Rita. I was so touched by the whole thing.
I was too. And I think of the faces of, first of all, I loved also the U.S. hockey team, when they came out. That was such a great moment. And I also loved the military guys being heralded, being honored. That was so beautiful to see them.
So many things.
Oh, that was amazing to see them receive the Medal of Honor. You brought up Royce and how about the guy? I can't remember the name. Maybe you remember, Sandra, the guy who saved over 100 people. Remember, in the floods.
Yeah.
I mean, that was amazing too. I mean, when you sit there, you pinch yourself and say, "Boy, there are heroes living among us." Sandra, thank you very, very much. And by the way, one of the lines, Sandra was bringing up some of the lines that she liked. I like this line from President Trump. This is cut 15.
From empty marshes and wide open plains, we raised up the world's greatest cities. Together we mastered the world's mightiest industries and shattered history's monstrous tyrannies. And we liberated millions from the chains of fascism, communism, oppression, and terror. Americans lifted humanity into the skies on the wings of aluminum and steel. And then we launched mankind into the stars on rockets powered by sheer American will and unyielding American pride. We wired the globe with our ingenuity. We captivated the planet with American culture. And now we are pioneering the next great American breakthroughs that will change the entire world. All of this and so much more is the enduring legacy, unmatched glory of the hardworking patriots who built and defended this country and who still carry the hopes and freedoms on all of humanity's backs. For years they were forgotten, betrayed, and cast aside. But that great betrayal is over, and they will never be forgotten again. Because when the world needs courage, daring, vision, and inspiration, it is still turning to America. And when God needs a nation to work his miracles, he knows exactly who to ask. There is no challenge Americans cannot overcome, no frontier too vast for us to conquer, no dream too bold for us to chase, no horizon too distant for us to claim. For our destiny is written by the hand of providence, and these first 250 years were just the beginning. From the rugged border towns of Texas to the heartland villages of Michigan, from the sun-kissed shores of Florida to the endless fields of the Dakotas, and from the historic streets of Philadelphia to right here in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., the golden age of America is upon us. The revolution that began in 1776 has not ended. It still continues because the flame of liberty and independence still burns in the heart of every American patriot. And our future will be bigger, better, brighter, bolder, and more glorious than ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
How could you not love that? The golden age of America is upon us. And yet, even touting patriotism, I guess, is a bad thing, according to Democrat Nancy Pelosi, who was in the room. Wait till you hear what she had to say about President Trump's State of the Union address and heralding America and heralding all of these heroes. Take a listen.
I thought the speech was lazy. It's one thing to acknowledge patriotism and people getting well and everything when you have absolutely nothing to do with their courage or the rest, but you spend an hour and a half doing it. What is the state of the nation?
Too much patriotism, according to Nancy Pelosi. They can't even applaud patriotism. They couldn't stand up for Americans over illegal aliens. And she has a problem with American greatness. Boy, are we in trouble, guys. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. And we will continue your calls after the break here on The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our country has to offer, especially health care. Across every state, every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's continue with your calls. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Teddy in Yonkers on line 3. Go ahead, Teddy.
Yes, Rita. Usually, your speech is usually always the same, condemning the Democrats, which they should be for certain things. Absolutely, I agree with you. But again, at this State of the Union, this speech, it is supposed to be a unifying speech. Instead, it is a speech of division and hostility and antagonism.
Yeah, you're right. And the Democrats, you're right, should have acted more professional. You're absolutely right.
But, Rita, talk about Trump and his division, talking about the condemnation of the Democrats and about how you should be ashamed of yourselves and just condemning everything.
Teddy, please, Teddy, I know you got Trump derangement syndrome, but let me just ask you, Teddy, Teddy, whoa, Teddy, you can't use those words. But here, listen, you cannot sit there with a straight face and watch those people who could not even stand up for a mother who lost her daughter because of a repeat offender, and also the little girl who was hit by the truck driver who never should have had a license and he was an illegal with a criminal history. You can't sit there and say the fact they couldn't even stand up for them or the Medal of Honor recipients. That's disgraceful, Teddy. And I would say that if Republicans...
I agree with you. I said
but Teddy, you're ready to overpass that. And what I just played, did you hear the clip I just played of President Trump? He didn't say me. He said we. We together can create this amazing golden age of America. We. When he brought out the hockey team, it wasn't a he. It was, let's congratulate this team that did great teamsmanship, that showed the best of America. That's not political. The Democrats turned it into politics. They've been slamming the hockey team. And by the way, if Obama was in the White House, I would expect them to go to the State of the Union. I'd expect them to go to the White House because it's an honor whenever any president asks you to do that. And yet people like you keep going after individuals for saying anything nice about Trump or anything nice about America, Teddy. I mean, that's what these Democrats, I believe you love this country, Teddy. You clearly do. And I know how that you have a lot of great values, Teddy, but you can't say you were proud to be a Democrat last night watching those people in action. It was nothing short of a total disgrace, and Trump was right to call him out.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on. The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this Back the Blue segment coming from Huntsville, Alabama, where a police officer was recognized for her heroic actions, wading into floodwaters to rescue a man suffering from hypothermia. This past month, a community member reached out directly to the Huntsville police chief to explain the impact that Officer Miller had during a life-threatening situation that unfolded. The Huntsville PD said the officers were dispatched after a caller reported her brother had left home improperly dressed for near freezing temperatures. Officers initially located the man in a creek but lost sight of him because of vegetation and also a very strong current. So about 45 minutes into the response, they found him stranded again on a small patch of grass in the middle of a creek, which had rapidly expanded to nearly 100 feet wide. Officers attempted to get him to come towards them, but quickly realized he was in clearly medical distress. He was shaking uncontrollably. He was pale and unable to respond coherently, so they knew that time was critical. Without hesitation, the officers entered the very fast-moving frigid waters, made their way to the man who was showing clear signs of very severe hypothermia. When they reached him, he was unable to stand or walk, so they actually had to carry him through the cold and uncertain footing. They carried him back to shore, transferred him to emergency personnel, and rushed him to the hospital. Authorities said if his body temperature had dropped any lower, his life certainly could have been in danger. Thank goodness. And of course, the sister said, they saved my brother's life this morning. They are an enormous asset to this community. And bravo to the great officers there in Huntsville, Alabama, saving her brother's life, and so many others, as our men and women in blue do every single day. Well, last night, President Trump in the State of the Union praised law enforcement. He also praised ICE. Did you see, by the way, there were a number of Democrats that had these F blank ICE pins. I mean, I found it reprehensible. F ICE sitting there in the halls of Congress. So undignified, so unprofessional. But that is their sentiment. And last night, President Trump praised the fact that he has immediately sealed the border.
After 4 years in which millions and millions of illegal aliens poured across our borders, totally unvetted and unchecked, we now have the strongest and most secure border in American history by far. In the past 9 months, 0 illegal aliens have been admitted to the United States. But we will always allow people to come in legally, people that will love our country and will work hard to maintain our country. The flow of deadly fentanyl across our border is down by a record 56% in 1 year. And last year, the murder rate saw its single largest decline in recorded history. This is the biggest decline, think of it, in recorded history, the lowest number in over 125 years, year 1900. In fact, substantially before my wonderful father, I had a wonderful father, Fred, before he was born, substantially before he was born. That's a long time ago.
I love these sort of sidebars that President Trump always has. That was my father. He was a long time ago. And then also, I think the best sidebars were when he chastised the Democrats. I couldn't believe it. At certain moments, everybody's talking about it today. They would not stand up. And even though Teddy didn't like Trump berating the Democrats, I say bravo, bravo, bravo. They deserve to be chastised. Because how many times in the past when they have stood down or whatever, and sometimes presidents try to move forward, Trump was brilliant that he highlighted it and showed how absurd it actually was. Take a listen. Here is President Trump last night.
Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy. amazing, gentlemen? Boy, oh boy. We're lucky we have a country. With people like this, Democrats are destroying our country, but we've stopped it just in the nick of time, didn't we?
I'm glad he spotlighted them. I'm glad he embarrassed them because they embarrassed the United States of America last night. First of all, there were more than 70 of them that didn't even come. They didn't even think it was worth it or dignified to come. And then the ones who came could not even clap for American heroes, couldn't even clap for American citizens. It was truly disgraceful. Listen to this congressman. This is one as a Democrat from Virginia.
And particularly that point where he asked people to stand when it comes to the topic of sanctuary cities. What was your position and what did you think of that technique during the speech itself?
I think the president's goal was to try to humiliate Democrats, try to corner them on certain issues, try to isolate them in some ways. There's a lot of spiking the football and reminding the people that he's completely in charge of Congress too. And Republicans certainly were getting up and clapping for everything he said because they see it as their job to do nothing but support this president, even when it undermines policies that they believe, and even if it undermines the American people. So certainly I wasn't going to get up and clap for everything the president was going to say about things.
And so you stayed seated. Is that the case?
Yes, I stayed seated.
And he's proud that he stayed seated. Stayed seated when Medal of Honor recipients were being recognized. Stayed seated when a mother of a murdered woman was being heralded for her courage to be able to move forward. How disgraceful. Truly, truly disgraceful. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Robert in Brooklyn on line 4. Go ahead, Robert. Your thoughts tonight.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. Well, according to Real Clear polling, President Trump's approval rating is only 42.7%, but disapproval 55.7%. So he has a negative 13%. But that was before the State of the Union.
So do you think it's going to go up?
I think he made some improvement. Personally, as a MAGA supporter, I really appreciate his emphasizing the importance of sealing the border. That's probably his biggest achievement, closing the border. And the Democrats are so horrific when it comes to the border. I applaud him for talking, pushing the Save America Act and Insider Trader Act. Some really good points. And also he pointed out that his estimate is that 32,000 people were killed in Iran. And that means the United States cannot stand idly by. The President of the United States promised that we would come locked and loaded to support them if they attack civilians. And President Trump's estimate is that they killed 32,000 people.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. It's horrible.
And you don't hear any of these Democrats who, defame Israel talking about Iran. Iran is where you actually have a genocide really taking place. But
Robert, let's go back to the speech. Now, what were the highlights for you? What were the lowlights?
Well, it was very, very good again. Immigration, extremely important. And by the way, that point about Iran, that gives a hint that he wants the regime change. So, and I agree with him. I hope he does.
Yeah, I think something may happen soon, Robert. I agree with you on that.
I applaud him for having Erica Kirk there.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of the subtext of that is you get these crazy people who happen to be anti-Semitic like Candace Owens, who are pretty much defaming Erica Kirk, who's a widow, her husband was horrifically murdered. And, there's a big anti-Semitic current. And some of these people also attacking Erica Kirk. I'm glad he had her there. I applaud him for that. I'm not so happy about the Medal of Freedom in terms of the goalie for the American men's hockey.
Why not?
Well, first of all, if he gives it to the man, he has to give it to the woman. Erin Frankel, she did an even more dominating performance, one of the greatest performances ever.
By the way, Robert, did you hear last night? He even said that he is going to be inviting the ladies to the White House. It sounds like they've accepted, because at first it sounded like maybe they weren't going to come. But then they said it was a conflict of interest, but they were honored. But now it sounds like they are coming at some point. He's trying to work it out. And it sounds, I would bet he's probably going to honor the ladies. You don't know that he's not going to honor the ladies. What about the moment where a number of these others, and you talked about the Medal of Honor guys, the fact that there were a lot of Democrats who were still sitting down when these Medal of Honor guys were being recognized. Robert, that to me was a real new form of low. It was beyond lowlights. It was like gutter. Your thoughts about that, Robert?
Horrific. When you had a person who was 100 years old who served in like 3 wars, and he gave him a Medal of Honor, and then there was another gentleman who recently served. He was just in Venezuela, a younger gentleman, and they got Medal of Honors, and some of these people didn't have the decency to stand.
Yes, so, that to me. I think it's going to hurt him. And by the way, Robert, I want to come back to where you started. You talked about the numbers, and Trump's approval. You're right, are in the 40s. But that's very similar to what Obama had. It's very similar to what Biden had at this point in their second terms. So typically, second-term presidents have pros and cons. There's no question about it. So those numbers, although they're not the greatest in terms of approval, they're pretty average in terms of approval. So it's by no means dismal. It's right in the same league as some of these others at this point. And remember, at this point, we didn't really know about Biden's lack of cognition that much. So you could make the case that Trump is doing pretty well at this point. Robert, thank you very much. Yeah, go ahead. Real quick, Robert, go ahead.
Well, no, there was one CNN poll that seemed to say that he didn't necessarily get such a positive reaction. It could be that a lot of MAGA supporters like me, we liked it, but I don't know how it played with independents. And I do want to say this. When he talked about he's going to save Medicaid, that is so disingenuous, and he's a murderer. As much as I like him, he has the blood of millions of people on his hands, Trump. So that is so shameful of him when he's talking about saving Medicaid. And so
how is that? How is that? How is that, Robert? How is that? You know what? I mean, that's an interesting comment to throw. By the way, he's such a murderer. But anyway, gotta go. What do you mean by that? Really quick, Robert.
What I mean by that is, how many people got heart attacks and turbo cancer and other horrific injuries and illnesses because of the COVID vaccine, quote unquote vaccine that he pushed? Warp speed.
Robert, that is absolutely absurd. That is absolutely absurd. Because so many of the policies, everybody at that point was pushing for the vaccine. Not everybody, but a lot of people in the senior leadership positions. And you know darn well that if Biden was in there, it would have been on steroids. And he was trying to push it to save America, the Operation Warp Speed. So, yeah, are there a lot of questions about the vaccine, by the way? No question about that, Robert. I have so many speculations about that. There is no doubt. I'll give you that. But to blame Trump for turbocharging it to try to save America, that is absolutely ridiculous, Robert. You had me until that one, Robert. Anyway, very interesting. Let's go to Susan in upstate New York. Line 1. Go ahead, Susan.
Well, Rita, you had the opening, the trap that President Trump set when he said, excuse me, just a moment, that stand up if you believe that the government's most important role is to protect U.S. citizens from danger of illegal aliens, because that went on for like 2.5 minutes. That the pro opinion of that, mostly Republicans, I don't even know if any Democrats, and they're going to be able to use that clip in the midterms because that is very universal.
Yeah, no, I agree. By the way, I think there's a lot of things that they're going to be able to use in the midterms. over and over and over again. And those moments especially, I thought about a campaign commercial, Susan, when President Trump was saying, hey, stand up. Will you put Americans first? Do you understand the first priority of America is to protect American citizens over illegals? Well, guess what? And they didn't stand. And then the SAVE Act. One of the most brilliant moves was when he brought up the SAVE Act and he said that you understand, he was like schooling the Democrats. You understand that Americans overwhelmingly are in favor of the SAVE Act, of voter ID. You understand that, right? You understand it's like he was saying 89%. I've seen polls that are 89, 84%. That includes a lot of Democrats and independents. And you understand that the American public agrees with me, President Trump, he was saying. And you understand you're on the outside on this one. And they still didn't know what to do. It was like, what is wrong with you, Democrats? Don't you even listen to your constituents? I think they look so far out of left field. And I think they were deserved to be shamed last night. It was horrible, Susan. I give you that one, guys. 1-800-848-9222. We'll continue after the break here on The Rita Cosby Show.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is The Rita Cosby Show.
And coming up on The Rita Cosby Show, we will continue talking about the snowball attack also that took place in New York. Mayor Mamdani calling it just a fight among friends, essentially, little kids playing around. That's not the way the cops see it when they were assaulted with snowballs, some of them with ice and rocks. I mean, this is really dangerous stuff. And it's ever dangerous because you've got a president who is clearly supportive of law enforcement, but you've got a mayor who, quite frankly, seems to just kind of minimize attacks on police. And that's a real problem. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Some crazy lines last night at the State of the Union. I want to play this one. This is cut 39. This is Ilhan Omar. I couldn't believe she said this one during the State of the Union.
CNN reported before that speech that the House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries advised your caucus, the Democratic members, to either skip the State of the Union address or sit there in silence. Should you have just boycotted the address, and do you think you violated the guidelines set out by your own leader?
No, I think it was really unavoidable. The president talked about protecting Americans, and I just had to remind him that his administration was responsible for killing two of my constituents.
In Minneapolis, many members of your Democratic Party criticized their Republican counterparts when they interrupted President Biden's State of the Union address, as a lot of us remember. Do you have any regrets at all about the interaction we played between you and President Trump just last night?
I do not, and I think many people look at that moment when the president says it is our responsibility to protect Americans. And he does not acknowledge the fact that two Americans, two of my constituents, two of our neighbors were killed. And it was important for me to just remind the American people that the president and his administration was responsible for killing two American citizens.
With hindsight...
That's an amazing statement. And she's talking about the woman who it looks like was trying to run over the ice guy. And then the other case of Alex Preddy, who about a week earlier was spitting on law enforcement. He was kicking their taillights out. He was doing a whole bunch of very out of control things. Of course, the case of where he died is certainly being investigated, as it should. But for her to say his policies killed two of my constituents. And if you heard her last night, she was shouting, he killed Americans. He killed Americans. That's an incredible, incredible moment. And that was disgraceful of her. her and Rashida Tlaib sitting there? Well, when we come back, President Trump put out a post on Truth Social about them. Wait till you hear what he said about the squad.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Rural Americans deserve access to the best our nation has to offer, especially when it comes to health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families' health. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.